There are so many ways to train your aim nowadays, but how do you know what the right way is? Maybe you've been grinding through aim trainers and not finding that too effective. And now you're practicing on the range and on Deathmatch for multiple hours, only to find that your aim is still pretty much the same. Getting proper aim training in Valorant is tough. The problem with all these methods is that they don't translate well enough into real games. You're not going to be facing a bunch of dots like you do on Kovacs or Aim Labs, and you're not going to be just standing still and having these random enemies suddenly appear in front of you like in the practice range. Then comes Deathmatch, that seems to be the most translatable to real Valorant games, but this doesn't seem to work out either. Not much is learned from running randomly all over the map only to get shot in the back for multiple minutes. So what the heck should we do to actually get better aim? Well, the answer might be simpler than we think. Our focus is going to be on Deathmatch here, as we believe it can help your aim if you use it properly. But there's more to the puzzle than just Deathmatch. Let's break that statement down a bit. Unless you're Shroud, aim doesn't come naturally for most people. When I first started Valorant, I placed it in Gold 2 and it took me months to get to Immortal. The journey was not easy. I did exactly what I mentioned earlier, grinding through aim trainers, the practice range, and Deathmatch, yet in the first few months I made minimal improvements. My aim didn't seem to change and I stayed the same rank. I even had friends who were doing better than me when they weren't even putting in the hours of practice that I was. That was until I realized I was practicing the wrong things. Just blindly going into these aim trainers was not enough to see actual improvement. This is because there are so many other factors that aren't being considered on these aim trainers. This includes the mental stress of being in a real game, certain aiming techniques that you specifically need to use, in-game strategies and abilities, along with team communication, to name a few. It is difficult to improve your aim if you aren't thinking about all these other factors. We could deathmatch all we want, but if we aren't aiming the same way that we did in practice, there is no point. With that being said, let's jump into the steps that we can take to properly improve our aim and actually see results. Before we get into today's content, this video is only a small portion of what we have to offer. If you want a truly comprehensive guide on how to improve in Valorant, then you want to check out our website at SkillCapped.com. Our courses break down everything players need to know detail by detail to begin climbing the ranks. Our simplified teaching style ensures that any player can understand and apply these concepts. The link will be provided in the description below. Now let's jump into the video. First up, let's delve into Deathmatch. Deathmatch can improve our aim, but only if we use it properly. There are several aiming techniques that you need to do in Valorant. Some of these include burst firing, tracking, short peeking, and wide peeking. Burst firing is where you're spraying 3 to 5 bullets at a time. You then stop and let the recoil reset before firing again to allow for more accurate shots. Tracking is where you're slowly tracing an enemy and ensuring that you have your crosshair at their head prior to shooting. Short peeking, as the name sounds, is when you peek close to a corner. You just reveal enough of yourself to check the angle and fight if needed. Wide peeking is the opposite, where you swing far out from the corner to challenge an angle. The idea for this is to throw off an enemy's aim who may have their crosshair held tight to the corner. When getting into Deathmatch, you want to think about a specific technique that you need to work on and solely practice that technique. If we want to work on burst firing, then we want to spend our Deathmatches for the day working on that. It's important to practice only one technique at a time so we can put our full undivided attention to mastering it. Otherwise, we end up sprinkling a little bit of practice into everything and the improvement won't be as significant. Think about a test. You want to study the specific areas that are your weakest rather than studying everything possible in the book. Pick specific techniques that you want to practice each week and just focus on that. That's right, not just a day or two of practicing it, a whole week. That way you have enough time to actually develop new habits before transitioning to other techniques. Now, Deathmatch isn't the only way to improve in Valorant though. Now that we have more focus in our Deathmatch practice, we still want to spend a majority of our time playing actual competitive games. Deathmatch allows us to focus on our techniques, but the other factors don't get taken into account unless we're playing the real deal. For example, we could feel really good about our short peeks in Deathmatch. If we're more mentally stressed in real games, it can be difficult to feel confident in doing those same exact peeks. We may be more hesitant in our plays, which then affects our timing and our aim. Or say you're trying to push a site with your team. You can't really get used to the ability usage, communication, and angle clearing the same way by playing Deathmatch. Actual games allow you to actually take all that information into consideration for how you're going to aim. Once you have that information, that's when you select the appropriate technique to use that you practice in Deathmatch. Because of this, we recommend players spend no more than a third of their time playing Deathmatch. The other 2/3 of the time should be spent in game and trying to implement the practice technique. Now, this next step is key to putting everything all together. If you really want to improve in Valorant, you have to VOD review. Record your gameplay and go through them to see what went well and what went wrong. It's difficult to identify these things in the heat of a match, which is why VOD reviewing is so crucial. Perhaps you lost a clutch because you selected the wrong peeking technique that gave the enemy the aim advantage. Or maybe you just aren't comfortable dealing with a certain angle and as a result your aim faltered every single time you had to peek there. Sometimes you might have just been too stressed during a situation. As a result, you were playing too scared, and that was negatively impacting your aim. These little details usually aren't discovered unless you VOD review and can more clearly see areas of your aim that need to be improved. For example, in this clip, I completely whiffed on this Sage that was running and gunning with the shotgun. Not my best day, guys, trust me. This actually happened quite often against this player, and because I reviewed the VOD, I quickly realized I need to work on tracking moving targets. Great, now all I have to do is focus on that in Deathmatch. An easy way to do so is to pick up the Vandal and only shoot one bullet at a time. The goal here is to make sure you've properly tracked the enemy prior to shooting. This will ensure that your first bullet actually hits. If this is too hard to start, you can make it easier by firing in bursts of 3 to 5 bullets, but no more than that. You always want to kill enemies quickly, which means with as little bullets as possible. Tracking helps us to achieve this by increasing the chances that our shots will hit. Because I've reviewed my VODs, I can better go into Deathmatch in my matches and specifically work on areas that need to be improved. Maybe you need to adjust the way you peek, or maybe you need something to de-stress and help you prepare for your games. Point being, VOD review and really analyze what you could have done better to win out the next aim duels that you originally lost. To wrap things up, remember that improvement comes slowly and in minor doses. Rome was not built in a day, and neither will your aim. Tenz is one of the greatest players in Valorant currently. He got that good by putting in the work. In fact, he had over 10,000 hours in Counter-Strike Global Offensive prior to his arrival in Valorant. That's over a year's worth of blood, sweat, and tears put into the game. And he probably has thousands more hours in Valorant now. Don't be discouraged if you're not suddenly dropping 30 bombs after practicing for one day, a week, or even a few months. An important part of improvement is to keep up the growth mentality and actively seek things out that you can do better with your aim. There are many pros that you may hear calling themselves trash at the game. Well, as a pro, they're obviously not trash and are in the top percentile of players. But these sayings demonstrate that mentality they have where they're constantly looking for ways that they can improve. Maybe they made a mistake that could use some fixing, or maybe they misread a situation and are trying to find a better way to respond next time. Just like the pros, you should have this same mindset. Constantly look for ways to play better, and the results will come slowly but surely. That's all we have for today's video. We hope it was helpful in providing actual ways that you can improve your aim. Remember that Deathmatch is only one piece of the puzzle.
How much have you ranked up since using SkillCapped?
That would be 5 times now.
I placed Iron 1 on my first act.
And what rank are you now?
Gold 1.
So I jumped from Silver 2 up to Plat 1 within 2-3x maybe.
What's your favorite part of the website?
I absolutely love the Smurf commentaries.
Agent courses and the Game Sense ones.
I think the agent guides.
What was your favorite agent guide?
I think the Jet one. I think it went more in depth on everything.
Is there anything that SkillCapped helped you learn that you think would have taken longer otherwise?
I think my whole aiming situation.
Like how to use the agent abilities, like the util. Before this, I was just throwing random shit. Let's say Sova, I would just drone random areas.
I didn't know about the audio cue when it comes to reload switching. Like if you hit reload and then quickly pull out your knife and switch back to your gun, the enemies will get the full audio cue, but you have your gun out.
You've come from, what was your original rank?
Bronze 1.
Bronze 1, and you're already up to Immortal, so that's really freaking cool.
Yeah.